China has built a glass bridge that literally floats above a 300-meter canyon. But before you can understand why this transparent walkway is one of the most insane engineering feats in the country, you need to see the mega bridges that led to it. China hasn't just been building bridges, they've been defying physics, conquering impossible terrain, and connecting places the world once said could never be connected. We are counting down the 8 most jaw-dropping mega bridges in China, each one more unbelievable than the last. And we're starting with a bridge that crosses open ocean for longer than most people's daily commute. 8. Hangzhou Bay Bridge. 36 kilometers of bridge stretching across one of the most dangerous bodies of water in China. Hangzhou Bay isn't just wide, it's violent. This is where the world's largest tidal bore smashes through, where waves don't just rock boats, they obliterate them. And China decided to build a bridge right through it. But here's where it gets interesting. The engineers didn't build it straight, they curved it into a shape, snaking across the bay like a dragon. Why? Because driving in a straight line for 36 kilometers over open water will put you to sleep at the wheel. The curves keep drivers alert. It's psychology and engineering fused together. The real nightmare was the foundation. Saltwater here is so corrosive it can eat through steel in years. The pillars had to be specially treated, built to last a century in an environment designed to destroy them. 600 engineers worked on calculations alone: wind loads, wave impacts, the crushing force of the tidal bore. One miscalculation, and the entire structure would collapse into the sea. But China wasn't done conquering the ocean. Next, they took on the most hostile marine conditions on Earth. 7. Pingtan Strait Road Rail Bridge. 16 kilometers doesn't sound that impressive after what you've just seen. But this isn't just any 16 kilometers. This is the Pingtan Strait, where the wind screams at 200 kilometers per hour, where waves tower higher than buildings, where typhoons treat the coastline like a punching bag. Engineers call it the most challenging marine construction site on the planet. And China didn't just build a bridge here. They built a double-decker highway on top, high-speed rail below. You're asking steel and concrete to hold steady, while trains thunder across at hundreds of kilometers per hour, and cars drive overhead, all while typhoon winds try to rip the entire thing into the ocean. But the real battle was beneath the surface. The seabed here isn't soft mud, it's solid granite. Drilling foundations into underwater rock while waves battered the equipment? Construction stopped and started based on narrow weather windows. Workers had days, sometimes hours, to pour concrete before the next storm rolled in. It took years of brutal, grinding work. But if you think fighting ocean storms is impressive, China was about to engineer something even more audacious. Over one of the world's mightiest rivers. 6. Shanghai Yangtze River Bridge. The Yangtze River isn't just big, it's the 3rd longest river on Earth. And at its mouth near Shanghai, it's massive. Wide, deep, churning, with some of the busiest shipping traffic in the world. And China said, let's hang a bridge over it. The Shanghai Yangtze River Bridge is a cable-stayed giant with a main span of 730 meters. 2 colossal A-shaped towers rise from the river like monuments, holding up a 6-lane highway with steel cables that slice through the air. But here's the problem: you're not building on solid ground. You're building in the mouth of a river, where the bed is soft sediment, mud that shifts and settles. The foundation work was a nightmare. Engineers had to dig deep, past the unstable layers, until they hit something that could hold the weight of those massive towers. And this wasn't just about supporting a bridge. It had to withstand the impact of cargo ships. One wrong turn from a fully loaded freighter, and you're looking at catastrophic failure. The towers were designed to absorb a direct collision and keep standing. But even this engineering masterpiece was about to be dwarfed by what came next. A suspension bridge that redefined what massive actually means. 5. Yangsigang Yangtze River Bridge. A 700-meter main span. When this bridge opened in Wuhan, it claimed the title of the longest double-deck suspension bridge in the world. Not just longest. And it's not carrying a simple road. It's got a 6-lane highway on top and a lower deck designed for mixed traffic and a future metro line. This thing is a vertical city on cables. The towers alone stand over 270 meters tall, nearly as high as the Eiffel Tower. And holding up that massive double deck? 2 main cables, each one woven from over 27,000 individual steel wires. That's not a cable, that's an engineered steel river flowing through the sky. But here's where it gets dangerous. You're building this in the middle of Wuhan, one of China's busiest inland ports. Massive cargo ships are constantly passing underneath. You can't just drop temporary supports into the water. You'd shut down one of the country's most critical shipping channels. So they had to assemble this entire bridge without disrupting the river traffic below. No scaffolding in the water. No support columns. Just cables, towers, and hope that the math was perfect. And the environmental pressure was intense. The Yangtze is already under stress. China couldn't afford to damage it further. Every piece of construction had to be done with surgical precision, minimizing impact on the river ecosystem, while building something that would handle over 50,000 vehicles a day. But if 1,700 meters sounds long, you're not ready for what's coming next. A bridge so absurdly long, it doesn't seem real. 4. Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge, 164.8 kilometers. You heard that right. This bridge is over 100 miles long. You could drive for 2 hours and still be on the same bridge. The Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge is the longest bridge in the world, and it's not even close. But this isn't just a straight shot over water. This bridge crosses lakes, rivers, rice paddies, canals, entire cities. It's an elevated viaduct that never touches the ground, held up by over 2,000 pillars, marching across the landscape like an endless army. And it's not carrying cars. It's carrying high-speed trains flying at 350 kilometers per hour. Now here's the insane part. They built this in 4 years. 4 years to construct over 100 miles of continuous elevated railway. 10,000 workers operating simultaneously along the entire route, pouring concrete, erecting pillars, assembling prefabricated sections. Like the world's most complex assembly line. The engineering logistics alone were a nightmare. You're building across constantly changing terrain. Soft soil, hard rock, water, urban areas. The weather shifts along the route. Quality control across that distance? Every single section had to be perfect. Because one weak point, and you've got high-speed trains derailing at hundreds of kilometers per hour. But China wasn't just building long. They were building up, and the next bridge takes you higher than you've ever been. 3. Beipanjiang Bridge, Duge Bridge, 565 meters above the ground. That's higher than the observation deck of One World Trade Center, higher than most skyscrapers. And you're not in a building. You're on a bridge, suspended in midair, with nothing but a 1,341-meter span of steel and cable between 2 mountain peaks. The Beipanjiang Bridge is the highest bridge on Earth, and it's not sitting in some convenient valley. It's strung across one of the most remote, rugged stretches of mountains in China, connecting Yunnan and Guizhou provinces. This is terrain that had kept communities isolated for centuries, the kind of place where roads simply couldn't reach. But the engineering challenge was brutal. You're not building on flat ground. You're anchoring towers to the tops of mountains, on opposite sides of a massive gorge. The first problem? How do you even get the first cable across a chasm that wide and that deep? They used a rocket. Literally fired a rocket carrying a pilot line from one side to the other. That's not engineering, that's desperation, meeting innovation. Then came the foundation work. Drilling into solid rock on a mountaintop, in weather that swings from scorching heat to freezing cold, with winds that could knock workers off their feet. Supply chains had to snake through mountain roads just to get materials to the site. Every piece of steel, every ton of concrete, hauled up to the peaks. And the whole time, engineers were running wind tunnel tests, calculating how this bridge would handle the extreme conditions up there. Fog, ice, high-altitude winds that could snap cables if they weren't designed perfectly. But as high and as remote as this bridge is, China was about to build something even more complex. A mega project that would span an entire sea. 2. Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. 55 kilometers across open ocean. That's not a bridge, that's a journey. But here's where it gets wild. It's not just a bridge. It's a bridge that turns into a tunnel, then back into a bridge, with 2 artificial islands built in the middle of the sea just to make the transitions work. This is the longest sea crossing in the world, and it connects 3 major cities, Hong Kong, Zhuhai, and Macau. 3 different governments, 3 different systems, all linked by one impossible structure. But the South China Sea had other plans. Typhoons hammer this region with terrifying force. Earthquakes rattle the seabed. And cargo ships, some of the largest in the world, pass through constantly. You can't just build a bridge and hope for the best. This thing had to survive magnitude 8 earthquakes, super typhoons, and direct hits from massive vessels. The engineering tolerances were insane. But then there's the aviation problem. Hong Kong International Airport is right there. You can't build towers too high, or planes can't land. So for a 6.7-kilometer stretch, the bridge dives underwater. They built an immersed tube tunnel, the deepest in the world. By constructing enormous tunnel sections on land, floating them into position, and then sinking them into a trench carved out of the seabed. One miscalculation, and the whole section floods. And the environmental pressure was crushing. The Chinese white dolphin lives here, an endangered species. Construction had to work around their habitat with constant monitoring to make sure the dolphins weren't harmed. It was engineering with a conscience, whether they liked it or not. 9 years, 400,000 tons of steel, $20 billion. And when it finally opened, travel time between the 3 cities dropped from over 3 hours to 30 minutes. The Greater Bay Area, an economic zone larger than most countries, was suddenly seamlessly connected. But for all its scale, for all its complexity, there's one bridge that stands above them all. Not because it's the longest, not because it's over water, but because of what it asks you to do when you step onto it. 1. The Zhangjiajie Glass Bridge. 430 meters of transparent glass suspended 300 meters above a canyon floor. No concrete beneath your feet. No steel deck to reassure you. Just glass and air. And a drop that would give you 7 seconds to regret every decision you've ever made. This is the bridge China built to float. It's in Zhangjiajie Grand Canyon, the same place where they filmed Avatar's floating mountains. Except this isn't CGI. You're standing on 99 panels of glass, each one made of 3 layers of tempered material, walking across a chasm where one look down shows you nothing but empty space and the valley floor far, far below. But building a glass bridge this long, this high, the engineering was psychological as much as physical. People need to trust it. So they tested it with sledgehammers, smashing the panels in front of cameras to prove they wouldn't crack. They drove cars across it, 20 vehicles at once, just sitting there on transparent glass, daring physics to fail. Each panel can hold 800 kilograms per square meter. The entire bridge can support 800 people at the same time. But none of that matters when you step onto it, and your brain screams that you're about to fall. Because the illusion is perfect. The glass is so clear, so flawless, that it disappears. You're walking on nothing. The suspension system is hidden. Minimalist steel cables anchored into the cliffs on either side, but designed to stay out of sight. The whole point is the feeling of floating, of defying gravity, of doing something your instincts tell you is impossible. And then they added a bungee jump platform, because apparently walking across wasn't terrifying enough. Now, you can leap off the side and fall 260 meters. The highest bungee jump in the world. At that point, China wasn't just engineering a bridge. They were engineering fear itself. This bridge doesn't connect cities. It doesn't shave hours off commutes. It doesn't carry cargo or trains or transform economies. It does something else entirely. It takes everything China learned from building the longest bridges, the highest bridges, the most impossible bridges, and turns it into pure experience.